Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. It's been quite the season for wildfires across the country. Currently, there are 29 First Nations impacted by wildfires in Western Canada. That's according to Indigenous Services Canada's emergency management. Of those 29, 6 are in Manitoba under an evacuation order, including the Bunbonabee Cree Nation in northern Manitoba, where a full community evacuation started late yesterday. With an update, here's TR Wheatley.
Updates like this one on the community's radio station are constant, as plane after plane is loaded up with residents from Bunbonabee Cree Nation and are brought here to Winnipeg for their safety. The Canadian Armed Forces have 4 Hercules planes dedicated to evacuating over 2,500 people since yesterday afternoon when an out-of-control wildfire got too close. Myrtle Crane and her son Liam were among the first to arrive in the city.
86 people was on that flight, including kids, elders.
The fire, 5,700 hectares in size, was just 10 kilometers south of the First Nation, making it hard for many to breathe.
Really smoky, dark clouds, even everybody fainting back home.
People under evacuation from 6 First Nations are staying in hotels, mostly in Winnipeg. The Canadian Red Cross is providing evacuees with lodging, food, and items like diapers and formula for the children. Kerrigan Wienisk is grateful for the help they've received here in the city.
I see the Red Cross.
But Wienisk says she's worried for many who are still back home.
I'm scared for my grandpa. He was close to the fire. He lives across the lake by himself. He didn't want to come because he has 2 dogs.
So he stayed back?
Yeah, but they said everyone has to leave. Everyone has to evacuate. Nobody can stay.
The Manitoba government says there are currently 71 active wildfires in the province, with the one near Bunbonabee being the most active, as flights continue to bring residents south. TR Wheatley, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
A group of Indigenous development corporations from across the Northern Territories are slated to become the new owners of the North's biggest telecommunications provider, Northwestel. Earlier this summer, the group announced it would buy Northwestel from its current owner, Bell Media. But as Sarah Connors tells us, some are questioning the inner workings of the proposed transaction, and they're calling for more details to be made public.
It's what our daily life revolves around: streaming, internet, phone. But in Canada's North, one company has a monopoly: telecoms provider Northwestel. In June, 60 North Unity, a consortium of Indigenous development corporations from across the North, announced it planned to buy Northwestel from Bell Media for up to $1 billion. Besides a press release, there's little public information about the transaction.
There are very few financial details and no details of what's exactly being purchased.
John Lawford of the Public Interest Advocacy Centre, or PIAC, says that's a problem.
It's kind of not like selling the candy store on the corner. It's a big deal. It's essential infrastructure for everybody.
After the deal was announced, the Canadian Radio, Television and Telecommunications Commission, or CRTC, penned a letter to Bell and Northwestel asking for more information. Under the Telecommunications Act, parties can designate certain information as confidential if they explain why its disclosure wouldn't be in the public interest. And that's exactly what Bell did, only filing an abridged answer for the public record.
They claim that it's going to cause BCE, or the owner of Northwestel, specific direct commercial harm. Exactly what that consists of, I don't know, because we can't see the way the deal is structured.
Bell's reluctance to share financial information about the deal hasn't gone unnoticed. Last month, PIAC submitted a request to the CRTC for Bell to hand over financial information about the sale.
Well, I think that people who are reliant on Northwestel as their only provider or their main provider of telecommunications services deserve to know the full deal so they can decide whether it's a good thing, and they should have some say in it.
Smaller scale telecoms providers also want details of the sale and have written letters in support of PIAC's request.
Bell is using that position to give a company valuation and selling price of $1 billion for all 3 territories. that have less than 200,000 people in all three territories? Like, come on, that's a far stretch.
If in fact this is a deal that, upon closer scrutiny, is really going to benefit Bell more than anybody, and on what terms is it going to benefit Bell more than anybody, that needs to be looked at.
Northwestel deferred comment to Bell Media, which said in a statement to APTN, as this information is highly sensitive, including commercial strategies, network configuration and planning, and financial projections, the public release of this information would be damaging to all parties involved. And it is routine for parties in the CRTC to keep this type of information confidential. Last month, Bell refiled its abridged answer to the CRTC, listing document names and headings, but a portion of the document remains redacted. Representatives for 60 North Unity did not respond to repeated requests for an interview. However, a spokesperson with the consortium shared a letter it sent to PAAC refuting its accusations, claiming this arm's-length commercial relationship with Bell is important in creating a stable revenue stream for Northwestel. It is not a special arrangement with Bell. And Northwestel has a strong history in the North, and we believe under Indigenous ownership we can enhance that legacy through targeted network, employment, and community initiatives and investments. Lawford says despite the lack of public information, the proposed deal has a lot of promise.
Hopeful it will be a good transition, but unless we get to ask questions, we can't make it the best deal possible.
The CRTC says it's working on PAC's request and will make a decision as soon as it can. Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
Thanks, Sarah. A small but mighty community group is taking to the streets of Winnipeg to help those in need. Members of Ace of Spades activism draw from their lived experience to connect with the people they serve. Reporter Sierra Bettens joined them on one of their walks.
How you doing, brother? Need a bottle of water?
I'll have one of those.
You take a Narcan? Okay, all right, there you go.
Equipped with one small shopping cart and 4 big hearts, one of Winnipeg's newest community groups is determined to make a difference. Late last year, the group's executive director, who goes by the name Cash, established Ace of Spades activism to help those in need.
I've been doing by myself some outreach stuff, and come December a bunch of friends wanted to get involved, so on the 23rd of December we decided we'd go out, a couple friends, and it went good and just slowly started from there. Come this spring we got a permanent team together, and these guys are just great. They've really helped us grow, and they made it into like what we are now.
Throughout the week, the team walks along Winnipeg's Main Street strip, handing out water, food, and overdose prevention supplies. Though they come from low-income backgrounds, they purchase most of the supplies themselves.
We give out food, water, clothes, things like that to homeless people, low-income people. We help them try to find homes. We help them try to find jobs. Also, we just show some emotional support if we can.
In under 20 minutes, crew member Tammy Spence handed out over 100 bags of popcorn. As someone who faced similar struggles, she says it warms her heart to give back.
Make somebody smile. I talk to a lot of people. I feel like I'm going to cry, but a lot of women and men, just a hug and just speaking to them.
The team draws on their lived experiences to connect with the people they help.
We've all been through rough stages in our life, a lot of us been through addiction, some of us been through gangs, crime, and turned our lives around for the better, homelessness, yeah.
As they expand their efforts, the group hopes to open a homeless shelter one day. On August 31st, they're hosting a winter clothing drive to ensure the people they serve stay warm in the colder months.
Most of the supplies come from kind donors or us ourselves, right, putting it in. And we actually have a GoFundMe started right now to help us get the shelter started. And on the 31st of this month at the community garden on Selkirk next to Elizabeth Fry, we're doing a winter clothing drive to try and help homeless and low-income people. So hopefully that'll turn out good and we can help quite a few people with it.
Whether they're delivering a bottle of water, a Narcan kit, or a hug, the Ace of Spades crew is determined to meet the needs of those in need. They invite anyone interested to reach out.
if anybody wants to join in on the walks with us or anything, or donate supplies to our outreach, they could reach us on our Facebook. It's Ace of Spades Activism on Facebook.
Sierra Bettens, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Our Truth in Politics panel is here to discuss the life and legacy of Tina Fontaine. That and more still to come. On August 17th, 2014, the body of 15-year-old Tina Fontaine was pulled from the Red River in Winnipeg. 10 years later, many are reflecting on the life and legacy of Tina, the changes her death brought about, and the systems that failed her and many others. For more, our Truth in Politics panel is here. Jennifer Leywitz is with Pasqua Harbor Strategies, and Nigan Sinclair is a columnist with the Winnipeg Free Press. Nigan, Jennifer, thanks as always for being here. Nigan, we'll start with you. And how do you reflect back on first hearing about the death of Tina Fontaine and what followed in the days after?
It was a time coming out of the Idle No More movement, which had really gripped the country at the time. And there was a kind of a hyper awareness, particularly in the Indigenous community, over the mistreatment of Indigenous young people in particular, but also women, girls, Two-Spirit peoples. And so there was a real movement to want to honor her. There was also a person who died at the same time, a hero in our community in Winnipeg, Farron Hall. And so they both died within a few hours of each other, or been found, within a few hours of each other. And so it was a real tragedy in Winnipeg. It gripped the city. And I knew the Indigenous community would respond, but I wasn't quite prepared for the huge amount of reaction in the non-Indigenous community. Thousands of non-Indigenous Winnipeggers came out to honor Tina, her family. And for the first time, I think in my memory, for the first time in my life, I saw non-Indigenous peoples in a small way taking some responsibility for what was happening, the genocide that Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit peoples were experiencing.
Jennifer, I wasn't even living in Winnipeg at the time. I was living in Thunder Bay, but remember hearing about it for sure. Tina Fontaine's death garnered global attention. What do you think it was about Tina's death that finally had the world paying attention to missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls?
I think her age, for sure. I think how young she was, but not just that. When you read about the stories about how much she had already endured in her lifetime by the age that she was when she was found, really highlighted how the system was failing. And not just, children that go missing, but the fact that, she was already being exploited at such a young age. How did so many people allow this to happen and to get into harm's way?
Yeah, lots of tragedy in that family. Her father murdered as well. She's lost a brother, cousins. Nigan, following her death, the Bear Clan Patrol came out of hibernation. Other initiatives started, like Drag the Red. Changes were made to the child welfare system in Manitoba. The National Inquiry happened. You wrote in a recent column that when history books are written, Tina will be recorded as one of the most important contributors to change in Winnipeg and Canada. Can you talk about that?
Well, it's perhaps the most tragic of all is that we did not have an opportunity to honor Tina and treat her well, with respect, with honor, with dignity in her lifetime. And so we all owe her a great debt, a huge, immense amount of sorrow for not being able to be there as uncles, as aunties, as relatives, as neighbors, to be there for her. The fact is that her murderer has never been brought to justice. The changes that really need to take place in some of the areas that were the front line designed to support her, or were supposed to support her, that's the child welfare system, the paramedics, the police officers, really all of those systems that drive Indigenous peoples into poverty. And while they may have good intentions, intentions at times, they certainly failed in this regard and continue to fail Indigenous young people daily. And all of those changes still have not taken place to the immense amount of challenges that continue to face, because Tina Fontaine's story isn't alone. It continues to happen within this, not just the streets of Winnipeg, also within the entire prairies, within huge urban centers like Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal, and in fact, maybe we might even talk about this globally. The mistreatment of Indigenous women globally, girls, Two-Spirit peoples globally, is a epidemic that is on everyone. And I think Tina Fontaine is a catalyst to us to look at that issue, but then also to be better, to want to be better. And for those in the public and the private sphere that I've worked with over the years, they all know Tina's name. They all know that changes need to take place, but perhaps they don't know how those changes need to proceed.
Jennifer, yeah, good points there, Nigan. I mean, the U.S. is dealing with this now. Australia tomorrow releasing a report on missing and murdered Indigenous women there. Jennifer, what do you see as Tina's legacy, and how could we as society do more to honor her and that?
I think for her legacy, we see a child that was strong and resilient, but also was failed heavily by every single system around her. I think that this opens the conversation around the systems that were designed when it comes to child welfare and our youth falling through the cracks. But not just that. When nations talk about taking autonomy back over child welfare with C92, it's not just a matter of building your own systems, but recognizing that, you know, the care and love and attention that people need doesn't just stop when you're 18 years old, but there needs to be that fundamental community piece that almost wraps their arm around our youth as they transition into adults and make sure that they feel seen and heard and understood. Because, you know, I know that there are social workers that work tirelessly across the country, and I don't mean to, you know, demean that in any way, because I know that that is a very tough job, but it's an industry, and it's an industry that often has policies that fail our people and don't fully understand our people. And, you know, a prime example of that is when people turn 18, if you don't have a mom or dad or any family members in your corner to help guide you through life, what happens when you turn 18? And it's not just for Tina, you know, at the age of 15, but our women that are 18 and age out of care without much, you know, family support or any support really, that are still so susceptible to exploitation and end up in various industries that can be harmful to them and wind up in addiction and stuff like that. So I think there's a really big question here that we need to ask, is if we're living up to her legacy in its full impact, and if we're applying all of the things that we are learning from that to making the change and progress where it's needed.
Yeah, I once interviewed one of Tina's older brothers who was homeless after he turned 18 and no longer with us now either. Jennifer, Nigan, we'll have to leave it there, but appreciate you as always.
Miigwech, thanks.
Time for one last break, and then we'll take you to the site of a big dig in Gatineau. Stick around. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. APTN's very own Jason Corshane snapped this photo of colorful sunset clouds over West Hawk Lake during a recent evening boat ride in southeastern Manitoba. You can share your photos with us by emailing share@aptn.ca. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, showers and 24 in Halifax, 25 in Fredericton. Rain and 19 in Kuujjuaq, 13 with rain in Nain. 31 and showers in Montreal, 30 in Val-d'Or with rain. Rain in Sault Ste. Marie, and a high of 22, 24 and showers in North Bay. Rain and 23 in Thunder Bay, 21 with showers in Sioux Lookout. Smoky across much of northern Manitoba, 24 in God's Lake, 25 in Norway House. 25 in Winnipeg, smoky, and 26 in Dauphin. Smoke across much of Saskatchewan as well, 27 in Regina and Saskatoon. 25 in Meadow Lake, smoky, and 24 in La Ronge. In northern Alberta, cloudy and 19 in High Level and Fort Chipewyan. 23 with showers in Edmonton, rain, and 21 in Lethbridge. 21 with rain in Vancouver, showers, and 28 in Kamloops. 21 with rain in Prince George, sun's out, and 24 in Dease Lake. 20 in Old Crow, 25 in Whitehorse. Sunny and 18 in Yellowknife. Sun's out and 26 in Norman Wells. 14 in Sachs Harbor. 27 in Fort McPherson. 12 in Chesterfield. Cloudy and 10 in Arviette. 5 in Resolute. 10 in Joe Haven. An archaeological dig in the Ottawa region has sparked interest with local residents. Lac Leamy Park has some of the largest pre-contact archaeological sites in the Ottawa River Basin. And to mark Archaeology Month, the National Capital Commission opened up one site for the public to join in the dig. Annette Francis has more.
I found something right in the corner right here. It just doesn't look like a normal rock.
Lindsay Eamon and her 2 sons have taken the opportunity to participate in the public dig on the Ottawa River. Eamon says she's always loved archaeology. It's important.
I think the kids really need to learn about the local history and having this connection to the local Indigenous as well as the settler colonizer history as well. I think that is just a great opportunity. Most kids don't get to have that. And then with my passion for the archaeology part as well, they've really developed that over time as well.
Between about 6,000 to 5,000 years.
According to archaeologist Monica Micah, 14 days have been set aside over the month for the public to come and dig. It's become quite a hit.
You can see 2 different styles of stamps on the outside. If you look on the inside, then they would have taken a bone or a stick and carved out those X's and lines. And if we look really closely down here, we can see the fingerprint of the person who made it baked right into the clay.
The site that is open to the public is located in Gatineau, across the river from Parliament Hill.
So it's been ongoing for 10 years with a pause because of COVID. But really, the site was actually identified by an archaeologist who stopped for a smoke break and looked down at the ground and went, oh, that's a piece of pottery. That's a flake. So he was commissioned to do a survey of part of Lac Leamy Park and identified 14 Indigenous archaeological sites here in the park.
She says it's important work. They're hoping to find as many artifacts as possible before they disappear due to the eroding river. And what is found is not something that can just be dug up and taken home. It's cataloged and held by the National Capital Commission.
So just last Monday, a kid was digging in their pit and they came over and they're like, well, is this an artifact? And they had found a perfect arrowhead, quite small, and the style looks like it'll probably date it to 1,000 to 1,500 years ago. And they found that just digging away in the sand.
Jennifer Tanasco is from Kitigan-Zibi First Nation in Quebec. Tanasco is the supervisor of the Anishinaabe Ojibwakan Archaeology Field School.
It's important for the youth to come out here and to dig along the water because from what we know, like our ancestors lived and occupied the space here at Kabeshnan, and so it's important to come out here and kind of be connected with the land and be present in archaeology.
Something Eamon and her sons are happy to experience.
Most people don't have this chance to actually take part and also help, because I know these sorts of things are a lot of work, so getting to get that hands-on is really cool.
Annette Francis, APTN National News, Gatineau, Quebec.
Thanks, Annette. We were digging that story here in studio. That is all the time, though, that we have for your APTN National News for this Thursday. For much more, visit our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. Marcy McGuetch, thanks for being with us. Stick around for Face to Face. That's next. We'll see you back here tomorrow.